Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing? So, okay, so we're on a schedule. We got a rundown and a script, right? We're ready to go. We're gonna be focused.
That's right. Do you want to?
No,
should we just get the
I just want to be
out of the way? Or...
Yeah, I want to be focused.
Okay,
I just want to be focused.
Focus like a great photographer.
What are we talking about? Oh, right. Right. So find the show. First, go to the show, rashpixel.tv. Thanks for joining us, everybody. It's Movies We Like. It's me and Andy Nelson, and we're thrilled to be here. We're talking about a great movie tonight. We're going to be talking about The Natural. It's kicking off our series on baseball,
or as they say in Mexico, baseball.
Baseball.
El natural.
I should have been a farmer. And so we're talking about The Natural, Robert Redford. It's a fantastic film, and very much looking forward to talking about that. But first, if you need to check out the vast archive, the veritable library of past Movies We Like episodes, where we talk about such film greats as Clute. That was just I totally didn't mean to laugh. That was just the first movie that came up, and I thought, what an obscure movie for that one to come up in my head. So we've talked about other movies, a lot of them, and so you should go listen to them and check them out. Join us on our Google Plus page. You can find actually go to rashpixel.tv. You can find all the various and sundry pages that we are on. You can learn about Andy Nelson and about myself if you are so interested, and follow us on Twitter. Have you changed Twitter? Have you changed your Twitter?
I haven't changed anything. You know what I really like about going to the rashpixel.tv page?
That it's not finished yet, and that it's just like a massive construction zone?
Well, because I love construction.
Yeah.
But also because I can get access to all sorts of wonderful links that we talk about on our show.
That's a great plug. I'm glad you said that. We should say that more often. We do. Every episode we talk about other links, and we add those links to the show notes, and so you should check those out too. Look at how focused we were. Bam!
It's amazing. 3 minutes and 7 seconds in.
Let's get into this. Can I tell you? No, you go first. Let's talk about. You want to talk about budgets?
I want to talk about budgets because who doesn't love talking about budgets?
There is nothing to spice up a different dinner conversation than budgets.
Yes, that's right. That's what I try to do every time I have a great dinner conversation. It really, really works to clear the house.
Hot.
It's
hot budget talk.
One of our friends and listeners, Steve Sarmento, sent a note to me after our last episode because we were talking about The Cat in the Hat and our buddy Bo Welch, who directed it, and how
was this the last episode? What are we talking about? Like Joe versus Volcano?
This is the Joe versus Volcano episode.
All right.
So, because Bo Welch was the production designer on that, and you remember?
Yeah, I was there.
You were there.
It was good.
So that movie, which cost $109 million to make.
That's a lot of money for that movie.
It was only 82 minutes long. That movie cost more per minute than Titanic. Titanic, which at the time was the largest budget that had come around, $200 million. So, I mean, it's almost twice the budget of Cat in the Hat, but it's 194 minutes long. So per finished minute of film, Titanic was just over $1 million per finished minute. Cat in the Hat was $1.3 million per finished minute.
Okay, so what are we to learn from this?
Well, it's interesting because, yes, James Cameron makes these ridiculously expensive films. But when you look at it cost per minute, he's actually doing pretty good. So I went and looked at one of the great box office data sites, thenumbers.com, and I looked at budgets, the top 20 budgets of films that have been released. They have some on there that haven't yet, like The Hobbit, Dark Knight Rises, Men in Black 3, Lone Ranger. But I took the top 20 films that they have on there that have been released. Now, these budgets aren't necessarily including marketing expenses, all of that. It's for what I can tell, strictly production budgets. It's all a little wishy-washy because the studios never like to tell you the truth. But
right.
And I did a little spreadsheet because I am geeky and I do things like that.
Yeah.
Of the top 20 movies ranked in order of what the most expensive film was per minute.
Which is an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't. I assume. Did you adjust for inflation in your spreadsheet?
No. To be honest, the oldest... no. To be honest,
I'm just saying, did you do it in 1950s dollars?
Actually, I did it in... No, I can't. I don't have anything funny to go with that.
Okay. No, that was good.
But all of these, of the top 20 films, except for Titanic and Cat in the Hat, which I just threw on, are actually all within the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
Oddly, because since Titanic, budgets have blown up. So if you look at the most expensive film budgeted, actually the two most expensive films budgeted on the numbers list are John Carter, your favorite.
Love that movie.
And Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Both of those films were budgeted at $300 million.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
Oh, my goodness. There are whole countries that could eat on that film.
I know. It's insane. So I'll just race down this list, okay, starting at the top. So John Carter, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Tangled, of all things, was the next one at $260 million.
Well, that's obscene.
Going down from there, Spider-Man 3, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, Avatar, Superman Returns, Quantum of Solace, The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, X-Men The Last Stand, Robin Hood, King Kong, The Golden Compass, Cars 2, Toy Story 3, Titanic. That's where Titanic comes in.
Wow, and that's
about 20 down on the list.
That's number 20.
So, yeah, I mean, it ties with a bunch of films that all cost $200 million.
Okay, so that's the list in order of budget.
Yeah, so
Okay.
when you break it down per minute, the most expensive film per finished minute out there, which of those on that list would you say?
If you say Tangled, I think I'm just I'm going to throw up in my mouth.
Tangled.
No.
Tangled cost $2.6 million per finished minute. It was a 100-minute film, $260 million to make. It cost $2.6 million per finished minute.
That's insane.
I know.
That was that DreamWorks? Is that DreamWorks that put that?
That's Disney.
That
was their
okay.
50th, that was Disney's 50th animated film.
They were just pulling out all the stops.
I guess so. Oh,
that's a failure of that's got to be a failure of project management, because that was not that was absolutely not a groundbreaking technological feat, was it? I mean, there was nothing in that movie that seemed like it really. I mean, it was no Avatar.
No, but I mean, Tangled, they really did a lot to try to improve the 3D animation world. I mean, I think it was their, if I recall, the first 3D. No, it wasn't the first 3D animated film, but it really had an amazing 3D depth to it. Still, $260 million.
Well, I should have had a better story. How about that?
Yes,
I'm going to say that out loud. That movie will never make this our show.
Well,
except for just now. It just did.
Right. And that being said, though, I've seen it so many times. When you have a daughter who dresses like Rapunzel for Halloween, you have to watch that movie all the time. She loves it.
Wow, that's unreal. Okay, what was number 2?
So 2.6. And second is John Carter, which
that's not a surprise.
132 minutes, 2.2 million per finished minute.
All right.
Third, Quantum of Solace. Now, remember, way back when we were talking about, you brought up Quantum of Solace and how the writer's strike really affected that film.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that that's why this one ended up on the list.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Sinking suspicion.
Yeah.
So then going down, X-Men: The Last Stand, Toy Story 3, Spider-Man 3, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, Golden Compass, big flop, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Cars 2, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Chronicles of Narnia, Robin Hood, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Avatar, way down here. Now, Avatar is number 15 on the list, because at $237 million it cost to make. Not as much as Tangled, I will reiterate.
Wow.
It was 160 minutes long, so it was 1.4 million per finished minute. And then Superman Returns, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, then Cat in the Hat, then King Kong, and then Titanic. So it's very interesting. Now, I did a little more digging with Avatar, and I found a number for the budget that includes the marketing costs. Now, when you add the marketing costs into Avatar, the budget for that was $460 million. So per finished minute, it was actually $2.8 million per finished minute. So,
yeah.
Woo!
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, well, as long as we're talking about enough about that, but I do want to say, as long as we're talking about Titanic, if you want to do something fun, I want you to go to Twitter. You don't have to do this now. Go to Twitter and just do a search for "Titanic was real," and read some of the tweets.
Wow,
it's
curiosity.
It's funny. It's funny. Like, for example, Meg says, "WTF? I never knew the Titanic was real." And I'm just going to stop there. I mean, she swears a lot after that. But
well, really, do you need to go any farther? I mean, I think
Nine says, "Guys," as if talking to, closest friends. "Guys, the Titanic was real. # mind blown." I think it's the mind blown that is the nice. That's the touch that really pulls the heartstrings. So we have not only a budgeting problem in this industry, but an education problem as well. We really need to work.
I think we're going to have to start before every single movie that was based on anything factual. It's going to have to, by mandatory per the MPAA, will now have to say based on a true story.
Yes, it should be on the Green Band trailer splash. It needs to be everywhere. Based on this movie was based on something real.
Oh my goodness!
Anyway, that's obscene.
Yeah, that is obscene.
Well, that's very interesting, Andy Nelson. I'm so glad you did that little bit of research and spreadsheeting for us.
It was fun. It was fun only because of how shocking it was. It just really blows one's mind.
Interesting. All right. So what else? Anything else jump out at you this week that has happened that is new? Have you seen it? That we haven't talked in a while, and so something has to have happened, right?
Nope.
No, me neither. Me neither. Honestly, it's been a pretty quiet week. Although, have you seen I'm not sure if it was today or yesterday, but the new G.I. Joe Retaliation character posters hit the web.
Oh, I haven't.
And I'm going to tell you, they look really good. Although the photography looks like it was done in Instagram.
I wonder if Facebook's contributing to the
seriously. I what is interesting about it, I did not know this, and I started clicking around IMPAwards.com. And do you ever click on the links where they actually credit on IMP Awards who did the poster design?
Yeah, I love going to the poster designs.
Like the aggregated poster design pages on IMP Awards, and then going to the pages. BLT and Associates. Wow. Those guys do everything.
Do they really?
Everything. They just, all right, so let's look at the list. Oh, all the movies. That's what the list is. They do all the movies. And
they do. Actually, I'm looking right now.
They do all the movies. So they've got right now this year they've got Spider-Man 3, Apart, The Avengers, Battleship, let's see, Brave, Cold Light of Day, whatever that one is, Devil Inside, The Dictator,
John Carter, Madagascar 3, Men in Black 3.
They did G.I. Joe Retaliation and the original G.I. Joe, and I really like the character splash posters for the first G.I. Joe. And that movie, actually, I liked better than I expected to. They do a ton of TV character art too. If you scroll down, you can see they've done all the big name TV characters from all the HBO shows, Rome, and so you go to their website. Their website is BL Tomato, I think. BLTomato. That's BLTomato.com.
Huh?
And their website is super cool. It's got a loop that you drag around to see the art of all the posters they do. That's all fanned out. So
they did Zodiac.
They did Zodiac
that we love.
Exactly.
God, yeah, you're right. What haven't they done?
I know. It's crazy. In fact, here's what you need to add to your spreadsheet. How many of those top 20 movies with the biggest budgets were actually had all their poster art done by BL Tomato?
I'll
bet all of them
right now.
I think all of them did.
We can finish this conversation later.
All right. All right. I think they've
So
done
much
all
more
Will
important.
Smith movies. So that's my only that is such a rat hole for me. I could get lost in character artwork. I mean, their posters are terrific.
Yeah.
BL Tomato. Good luck trying to get on the docket of those guys, though. They seem to. If you're an indie filmmaker, call me.
Right.
Because you'll never get in with these guys.
Although they seem to do it for everybody. Well, it's all
Man,
the studios.
It's all the big studios. All right, enough about
Well,
that. What
yeah,
are we talking about?
let's talk about
Baseball.
Baseball. So we're doing our baseball series, which
I
is
just
very
wanted to
exciting.
talk about one more thing. I just have one more thing. Skyfall. There also new Skyfall art came out, and Javier Bardem is my hero. Javier Bardem.
Is he really?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. So Skyfall is another one I'm really, really looking forward to. Now I can close that tab and we can talk about baseball.
Okay.
All right. So The Natural. Tell me what you want to say about The Natural. The Natural, not a true story. I feel like we need to get that out of the way.
Disclaimer at the start of each podcast. This one is not based on a true story.
Not based on a true story.
For Nai or Nini
for Nai
on Twitter, in case you're listening in.
It may be, it is difficult. You have to actually put yourself in there because Roy Hobbs sounds like a baseball player, not a real guy.
And he's playing a real game.
He's playing, and those balls are real. They're not CGI. That's real. But it's not true. It's a lie.
Boy, we are so going all over the place tonight.
This is for your wife because she said we were distracted, and then we've completely gone. The pendulum swings way too far the other way. All right, tell me what you want to talk about the Natural.
So the first thing that I want to talk about for The Natural, because I have my little list here. I want to know your first memory of watching The Natural.
Oh, the gunshot.
No. Your first memory, like what your experience of it.
Yeah, like the first time I saw it.
When did you first watch it?
I saw it in the theaters.
Oh, you did? So you saw it in 84.
In 84, yeah. Yeah, my dad took me to see it because, baseball. And right. I think at that point he thought he was raising an athlete. I don't think we had actually met, me and my dad. And so, no, it looked like a baseball movie and not like it looked like a different movie than what I think he intended to see. But I remember very clearly seeing the movie, and I remember being absolutely stunned by the gunshot. Yeah. I didn't see that coming.
Right.
What's yours?
You don't remember my first experience?
Oh, was it? Did you just tell me
you were there?
Was it in my dorm room?
No, it wasn't in your dorm room. It was in Mountain View.
Oh, okay.
We were living there, and you were so shocked that I had never seen this movie that we watched it right then and there.
Yeah, because I had it on VHS.
No, you had it on DVD.
I did. DVD. Well, I had it on VHS too.
Okay,
I've kept this movie with me.
The funny thing about this movie, and I don't know if you recall this, but I had a really hard time with it because and I don't know what threw me when I watched it, but I was convinced that he was killed when she shot him, and that the rest of the movie it was a ghost. Do you remember that at all?
I totally don't. Oh my gosh,
I was
that's
like,
fantastic.
and I was just trying to figure out, like, okay, so those people can see him, and all the people in the crowds can see him.
You thought it was an I See Dead People movie.
I know. I was so confused, and I was trying to find the clue that was like the twist that was going to happen, like why he came back from as a ghost to like reinvigorate Pops and this whole team, and I was so confused.
Wow.
And then it finally clicked. Like, I don't know when it finally clicked, but I was let down, but at the same time, I was just like, I felt so stupid because I'm like, wow, I really took this in a direction that I don't think anybody has probably taken it before.
Man, and it ends so fast. I imagine if you were carrying that around, watching the end of this movie would be an enormous disappointment.
Yeah, because you're like, well, what happened?
Because it just ends. It's just over. It's just the end.
Yeah. So. That was a very funny experience for me. And so it was weird rewatching it again. And I've seen it a couple times since. but it took me a while to get past that memory and just be able to watch it again, because as I would rewatch it, all I could do was laugh at how silly I was thinking that. Just like,
all right. Well, how has it aged for you?
You know, the thing that really made it work for me now is I was listening to I think there was a documentary on the disc that was talking about like the making of and all that stuff, and it was talking about the mythos that Malamud, Bernard Malamud, who wrote the novel, that he instilled throughout the novel, and then that permeated through the film as well. And I started thinking about it, and it really, I mean, the film just was just magnified in my mind, just like the brilliance of how the story was told as like this mythic tale of a hero's journey. I mean, it really is. And I couldn't stop thinking about it, and so I really now I think that I see it that way, and I'm done with the I see dead people story that
that changes things.
I'm now at a place where I'm like, wow, I can really appreciate what they're doing with this film and creating this mythic tale about this sport that really has this kind of I don't know if it has a mythic quality, but it's just got this different quality to it than some of the other sports do.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that I think it's hard to have a, well, okay, yeah, I agree with mythic. And when you look at it, when you take a step back and you look at all of the parallels between the mythic characters, really almost feels mapped character for character to the Odyssey. I mean, we're not talking about like, the classics. We're talking about the Greeks and the Romans,
right.
And it is that it operates at that level of depth. What I think is so interesting about this movie is just how well it performs as a screenplay. Right. And that's one of the things I'm interested in you talking about. Is this one of the ones that you teach in your class? Is this in the great book?
It's not.
It should be. It totally, don't you think it should be? This one is stunningly good. And I'm going to tell you why I think so.
Tell me.
Because this one, and we should say, the film was written by the almost as well-known Town brother, Roger Town, brother of Robert Town, who is, known for Chinatown. But Roger Town is known for some other films that were not bad, just not as many movies. He did The Recruit, In the Company of Spies was a TV movie I haven't seen, but Tom Berenger. How can you go wrong with Tom Berenger? But this was the one that I think was of greatest note, and it operates structurally as, I think, a real standalone piece of art. And I really like it because it's architected in such a way to let each like part of the filmmaking team do the job that they need to do at their very best, right?
Truly.
It is a script that is, I mean, you watch this thing and there's hardly any dialogue in it. I mean, there really is. This is a very sparse dialogue film.
Yeah, but what's there is just sharp.
It is absolutely perfect. It's like it has been whittled down to its absolute base components, right? And so this is the goal, I would say, of the screenwriting process is to prepare this blueprint that allows the actors to put their best work into this piece, and then it is handed off to the director and to the cinematographer, and allows them to get from the film the very best visuals and the very best structure that they can, and allows each member of this team to build their very best work on it. And this script is like a case study for perfect structure of what a screenplay should be.
Yeah.
And I think he just nails it. Now, so I guess we can talk about each of the about the characters. We should talk a little bit about Robert Redford. I'm interested in your perception of his performance in this. This movie got fairly middling reviews.
The interesting thing about the reviews, and I read this from both critics and then also the filmmakers themselves, they felt that because the novel, I think, was a
downer.
It was a serious downer, but it was also more well received, I think, than the film was initially, at least for the film. And I think what happened, at least what people said, is if people were real fans of the novel, if the critics who were reviewing it, they really were unhappy with the changes made in the film.
That was actually one of the things I noted that Gene Siskel said quite specifically. He said the people who really didn't like this movie likely just read the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's that important sense of recency, right? I mean, that they just, if you walk into the film having, just read the book, you're probably not going to like it.
Yeah, which I think is often true with any adaptation.
Yeah.
If it's really fresh in your mind, they're never going to compare.
Right.
It's rare that they do. But it's I think it struggled. Well, and the other interesting thing about it was, I mean, it truly is kind of a fable. It's this fairy tale, mythic story about baseball, coming out at a time when baseball films were not that popular or that frequent at the movie houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were just for whatever reason, baseball films hadn't taken off. This film actually really is kind of the film that helped baseball movies get really start getting out there. I mean, there had been some, but mostly they were like bio films, like the Babe Ruth story or the Stratton story or the Jackie Robinson story, those sorts of films. And then there's Damn Yankees. Not a whole lot. Bang the Drum Slowly, which was also a biopic in the 70s, and then Bad News Bears, and then there was a few others in the 70s, not a whole lot, and then The Natural came out in 84, and that was the one that really, even though it didn't get critical acclaim, for whatever reason, I think it just tapped into people's desire to see inspiring baseball films, and that really kind of birthed the modern baseball film that took off after that.
Well, and I wonder how much I guess we should talk about the nature of sort of baseball films versus inspiring films.
Because you mean inspiring sports films, or just
inspiring sports films. I wouldn't compare this to Prefontaine. There's
I'd like to see you try.
There is certainly a sort of athletic film gestalt, right? That has kind of its own language, but and I wonder how baseball films, I don't know. I have a hard time characterizing what is different about baseball. Because baseball is not a great sport. I mean, okay, wait a minute.
Well,
I'm going to take that back. I was in Boston last week, and
right.
It was opening day. I was in Boston, standing at the Fens by Fenway Park on opening day, Red Sox baseball, and there is a degree of hooliganry that is beyond compare. And so I certainly I understand that I understand fandom, but I find baseball itself to be a rather tedious sport.
Well, here's the thing about baseball.
How did baseball films become so great? That's my question.
Baseball is it's a sport about statistics, and not to make it sound like you have to take the magic out of the game or anything, but really it's a game that you have to kind of understand the statistics of the player as they're going up, and it really kind of that ends up infusing your appreciation for the game. And
is that how you do it? Do you watch it with the spreadsheets and such?
I don't watch baseball, but I could. I could watch baseball. No, if there were a sport that I would enjoy watching more, it would be baseball. But I just never had it in my life, and for whatever reason, I just never
Well, and
never
that's the
got
thing.
into it.
I mean, you bring up a great point. Like the movie that actually got me into thinking about baseball, and I haven't really jumped into it yet. I thought I would, but I haven't really. Was Moneyball, and it was because of the statistics angle. Like that actually started to make sense to me.
Sure.
But this movie, I don't think baseball is necessarily the sort of the operant condition of this film to make it important.
Well, but see, here's the thing, and this is where I was going with my rambly diatribe that I just had about baseball. Although let me put an asterisk on here. I do have a tie to baseball, which is I actually have my great uncle played for the Cubs, or sorry, the Indians. I can't.
You don't
remember
even
what
know.
he played for.
You don't know.
I know.
Yeah,
He played for the Indians, and second baseman, and he's the only baseball player in baseball history still to this day to make an unassisted triple play in a World Series. So,
unassisted triple play in a World Series. I'm gonna have to write that down and figure out what it means. That's fantastic. Congratulations to you for being essentially a non-contributing zero in that statistic.
Oh, thank you.
No, but what was his name? What was his name? Do you remember?
His name is, yes, it's Bill Wambsgans.
Bill Wambsgans.
Yes, Wambsganss.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so that's
I don't actually have a baseball. I have sung the national anthem opening day of the Orioles Stadium in 1992. And that was big. And George Bush, the first,
was
through the first ball. Yeah. I didn't get hit by it.
Well,
so anyway, okay. So my question was, you were saying something, and
So baseball. Why is baseball different than other sports movies?
Yes.
Baseball is a different sport. And I think this is why it works better than most sports movies in my mind. Other sports movies, you've got this whole team and they're all focusing on the ball and they've got this, it's a truly team sport as people are interacting and doing things. In baseball, it's a sport where you have all these people out on the field, right? You've got the pitcher who's pitching the ball to the hitter, and you've got and he's trying to hit the ball. And what happens is in a sense, it eliminates all the other players, and it becomes a one-on-one sport, right? There's this moment in baseball where you've got one-on-one things happening. It's not all just about where the ball is. There's so many more things happening in baseball. You've got the people on the bases. You've got where the ball is. But then you've got people running, people hitting. It's just there's so much more excitement in baseball because all of these different elements are coming together. And that's what creates something that's more unique than other sports. And because of the fact that you're able to create moments that are about one person facing a moment by themselves, which is essentially, the guy at the plate getting ready to hit that ball that the pitcher's going to throw their way. That's what turns it into a sport about a person facing an obstacle. And that's why baseball movies end up creating something different and I think a little more unique and magical than other sports.
All right. So if we were to create sort of an emotional perception map of where sports movies fall, I gather you would say that boxing movies achieve this to some greater degree even than baseball movies, and football movies to a lesser degree.
That's right, I guess. Although I don't know. I think by the nature of boxing movies, the fact that it's such a pugilistic thing, I think it's taking some of that out of it. Not to say Raging Bull isn't one of the greats, but
one of the greats.
It's
now we're going to have to do a boxing series.
I know.
Raging Bull.
And I don't want to sound like, I don't like the other sports movies. I think Hoosiers is an amazing film.
Basketball movies,
I think there's great football movies. There's great golf movies. There's all these great movies.
There are no great golf movies.
Oh, come on.
There's one great golf movie.
Well, let's see. I'm thinking about it now.
It's Caddyshack. That's right. It's Caddyshack. Okay. Well,
Yeah, that's
okay. Now I feel like we've rattled a little bit on sports movies, and that was my fault. But one of the things that I think is so powerful in this movie is it goes back to the way the experience of Roy Hobbs being shot. That experience becomes a character in this film, right? It is the black hole around which all of the emotional energy is sort of constantly swirling. And I think the real art in how this was architected is all in Robert Redford's ability to say so much without saying a damned thing. Did you notice that? The guy, this character, and really he is expert at delivering nothing verbally.
Right.
He is expert at it. And I mean that with great respect, because I watch this guy and what he is able to bring across as you're watching him is just about the most adult human male sort of realistic performance as I have seen. One that in just so few words can encapsulate all of the shame that he carries really unnaturally or, unfairly about this event from his past as he is trying to rebuild. And I think that makes this, where I think so many other movies, and we'll talk about, this in contrast with baseball movies yet to come, about how the traumatic event ends up being worn on the sleeves of the players. Right. And this movie, every effort is taken to make it something that is not spoken of until it absolutely must be spoken of, and it hits at just the right point in the film when he comes out and actually talks to Glenn Close, Iris, on their kind of return, when he finally comes to terms with the fact that he can come out with this and talk to her again, and that ends up being a very powerful kind of a montage almost of conversation.
Well, and she says something there that I feel is just, it's the line that stuck with me more than any other line in this film, and I think that we each have two lives. It's the life that we live and it's the life that we live and the life we learn from after that.
Oh, it's so good. Good.
I was just like, man, if that is not a defining description of what life is like, it really just...
It is, and as much as her character probably didn't need to say that, because the movie is a brilliant sort of pay-in to that effect. That she said it, and that the line was written so perfectly, I think it's punctuation to what is really a wonderful discussion of rationalizing shame from Barry Levinson.
Yeah. Barry Levinson, this being his second film.
Yeah.
The only one he had done before this was Diner, and it's pretty amazing that he came out of the gate with this as number two. It was TriStar's first film, and
that blew me away. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Blew me away. Wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Go TriStar.
Yeah.
So other folks to talk about. Robert Redford, obviously we've sort of talked about. Redford. Do you have any impressions to add on Redford's performance?
Redford, everything that you said is spot on. He's amazing in this film. He's perfect. My only note that I would have is that I've always struggled to buy him and Glenn Close as teenagers in the opening scene. It's just
I have too, but I can't figure out if it's
do you know how old he was when he made this film?
Well, I was wondering actually the same about her. How old was he?
He was 48.
Oh my gosh.
48 years old, playing an 18-year-old, and then how old was he? He was like 16 years later, right? So
yeah.
So wow. 34. 48 years old.
Man, he had some city miles on him.
I know.
What about
it's just
Glenn
like
Close?
playing a teenager. I'm just like, okay. It's a struggle. Because that's the one moment that for me I've always had a hard time believing, and what it makes me feel like I'm watching is a play. Because in a play, you often have like the same actor playing people like through their whole age, and they feel like older people pretending that they're like high school kids again.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only complaint with their performances. Other than that, I think Robert Redford is just amazing. Glenn Close, I mean, she's, an amazing actress, and she does a great job in this. I mean, it's not a big role. She got nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Interestingly, she says she contributes the entire reason that she got nominated for the cinematography, and specifically the one scene where she stands up and her hat is glowing like a halo around her head.
Mm-hmm.
She says that shot is the reason that she got nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Huh.
Which
I guess I could buy that. It was a beautiful shot. I mean, there are some visual components of this movie that that are really fantastic. I think I had always had a problem with breaking the clock.
Oh, really?
When he shatters the clock, I always had a problem with that, and I didn't when I watched it again, kind of preparing for the show.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I feel like I sort of get it. The way visually, the way the clock was sort of constructed, the clock scene, it feels very much like sort of like you're at the end of the movie. It feels like it's just sort of built up, and then he knocks the thing. He's already knocked the case off the ball, the cover off the ball, and so it's built up to this sort of crescendo, and it comes up in that great Randy Newman score, builds to this great crescendo, and the clock shatters. But you notice the sky is blue.
Mm-hmm.
It is a beautiful blue sunny sky, and it looks like a Saturday at the park, and no great movies can end with a blue sky. And so the point is he needed to, it was something just to show that he could do something like this. And then you get a little dip, it's almost like a beat in his sort of journey of power. It's like sort of defeating, the first boss villain. And it all builds to the end where there are some of the most beautiful uses of slow motion when he breaks when he finally shatters the lights at the end, and the sparks are raining down on the field, and you get these shots where the focus is pulled just a little bit too late as he's running past. It's at a very low angle, and the camera's like low to the ground, and he's running past it. You get this half frame, and I just want to freeze it and just watch him run by, because the exposure is off, the focus is off, and yet it is. I mean, how many times have I seen this movie and I still choke up at that scene? I still choke up.
It's stunning, and the shot of Pops when just looking at him as he's running, and all you see is kind of the reflection in his glasses of the sparks falling as everything else gets dark. It's just it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It is
painterly.
Really, really gorgeous.
It's painterly.
It is painterly. That's what we would call that. So let's see. What do we know about this movie? Who edited was Stu Linder. Stu Linder has done. He did the Diner for Barry Levinson, and then he got in with Steven Spielberg, and
well, he worked with Barry Levinson a lot.
Yeah, he did.
Good Morning Vietnam. I think Barry Levinson did Good Morning Vietnam, but
look at those Tin Men, Rain Man, Avalon,
Tin Man,
Bugsy.
Yeah. So he worked with him for quite a while.
Part of the team.
Yeah.
And what else do we know about the cinematography of this movie?
Well, Caleb Deschanel, I think, had just come off of The Right Stuff, if I recall correctly. He's a great cinematographer, although I think he was relatively, this was relatively early in his career. No, I guess he had done The Black Stallion as well, being there. But the Wright stuff was the big one that he had done right before The Natural.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just gone on to just do lots of great things. Fly Away Home, Message in a Bottle, Anna and the King, The Patriot, The Passion of the Christ, National Treasure, Spiderwick Chronicles, and he just shot Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So, he's
which looks actually quite good.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the trailers of this one?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'm excited.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Although, of course, we're going to need to preface this by saying this was not true, as far as we know.
As far as we know. Can I just say, I worked on a film a few years ago called Nether Beast Incorporated back in 2006 that was about a modern day office full of nether beasts, which were essentially vampire type characters. And it's kind of an office comedy with vampires. But the story takes a step back in time to close to the origins of nether beasts, which happened to be with President James Garfield. So ever since this Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter stuff started coming out, I was like, they totally just ripped off.
They totally ripped off your nether beast, man. Dude. All right. We're going to have to add that one to the
story.
list.
Yeah, so.
They're on the list.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But, so yes, go on.
No. I wanted to talk about Randy Newman because he's another one who, by the time this movie came out in 1984, Randy Newman obviously had already been, he was a musician of some renown, but this was only his second full score. He had done some work for, he did Ragtime before then.
Right.
But in terms of full scores, this was his second, and I think, I would say that this is the one that made composition a major part of this guy's business.
Oh yeah, I would agree. The theme is possibly one of the great themes.
It is
It's
absolutely. With his themes are, he's been doing this now for long enough that you really can say, he's been an active musician since 1961.
Yeah.
And didn't start doing film until 82, it looks like 82, 81. Anyhow, so this is a guy who's been doing this for a long, long time, but his films or his themes are really, they really stick with you. Maverick, Toy Story in particular, I think is one that is that's big.
Yeah, the whole trilogy.
The whole trilogy really is. It has his stamp all over it, and his work with Pixar in general, I think, really has his stamp all over it. But his themes stick with you, and I think this was the film that started it all, and it's the one that gave him some incredible momentum.
Yeah, and it's one of those themes that then when you hear it a few times, I still have not been able to get it out of my head, which isn't a bad thing. It's a great, great theme to be humming. It's just such a wonderful tune.
Well, and it's a funny thing because he's done a lot of movies, more movies than I had thought when I first started looking up his work, and he has won a lot of awards and certainly been nominated a ton. Yeah. Well, actually, he hasn't won that many, but he's nominated
only won
a ton. He's won twice. But what is so interesting about, I think, Randy Newman is that I don't get the feeling that he is, sort of the inside track kind of filmmaker, not like, Howard Shore and what's the Star Wars guy?
John Williams, the
Star Wars guy who has an order of magnitude more scores under his belt than.
But Randy Newman is from a very musical family,
right?
His brother Thomas Newman composes for tons of films, gets nominated all the time for his own music, does a lot of work with Pixar as well. Not to mention their father, Alfred Newman, one of the all-time great composers.
Exactly, and
the one who composed the 20th Century Fox, the original short version of the 20th Century Fox theme. And I take it back. He's cousins with Thomas Newman and David Newman, another composer.
Well,
but and I was all wrong. Alfred Newman is their father. His father is Irving Newman. So there you go.
Man, this Thomas Newman. He's been around. I hadn't seen his thing. He's been doing things. He did Skyfall. What?
Yeah.
Oh, and he
Thomas
did your
Newman
favorite movie, The Iron Lady. Get a load of this.
Thomas Newman is great. David Newman is great. They're all fantastic.
The Help, The Iron Lady, The Adjustment Bureau, and The Debt. In 2011, that guy did everything.
He's a busy man.
Interesting. He did Wall-E.
I think Thomas Newman, and we're totally going off on a tangent here, but I think Thomas Newman holds the record for most nominations for an Oscar without winning one, because he's been nominated for 10 Oscars.
Wow.
And has yet to win. He did Shawshank Redemption.
Hey, Jumpin' Jack Flash and Gung Ho. He did Gung Ho. He did Real Genius and The Man with One Red Shoe.
Yeah. Okay. I love the Man with One Red Shoe music. We're so going on crazy tangents. Let's get back to The Natural.
Yeah. No, I think maybe that's a sign that I think I have actually run out of things to say on The Natural. Tell me what you want to talk about.
We're going to still talk because we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Going back to the mythology, I just want to bring up a couple other things that I think are great. Some of the characters that we have in this film, other than Roy Hobbs, our hero, we've got the judge, which Robert Prosky, fantastic. I'll always remember him as Grandpa from that show. I can't remember. Wow, that was great. Robert Prosky, he was the judge in this, and he was Gramps in The Munsters. There we go.
Yes.
Fantastic bit in here. He's essentially Hades. He's ruling hell, right? He sits in darkness, and that is, I think, my favorite conversation in this bit, when he's talking about the darkness and all that, and it's a pure canard. A what? A prevarication, a lie. I love that bit. That's just fantastic.
There is a sense that he delivers the reality of the business, right? He is the he's the network speech. What's that I love so much?
Yeah.
This is the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and we will not have it. Right? He's Ned Beatty, right? And this is the
corporate control.
It is the sense that this is you may think you understand everything because you are a player, but let me assure you, you are a pawn, and I will guide you as such. That's the role.
And if you don't let me guide you, I will crush you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's fantastic. And then in an uncredited role, we have the wonderful Darren McGavin, who is really interesting character. He's like the mystic, he's the one-eyed man who can, he's like the seer, right? And then in this, he's kind of the.
Why was that an uncredited role?
It's interesting. He was cast too late for him to. And I don't really understand like how it really affected things, but they cast that role later than all the other roles. Like literally, I think it was like almost right before they were shooting, and he opted, instead of being, because the cast was full of so many names, and the way that the credit list was getting built, he would have been at the bottom. He's just, I think I'll go uncredited. And so he chose to take the uncredited role, and they said that he got more attention for his role than the other people did anyway. So
I believe that.
Yeah. But it's like, he's that like mystic one-eyed creature in this, and it's really interesting. And I
that pissing match they have at the table when he says, "I'll bet I can tell you to the dollar, give or take $1, how much money you have in your pocket right now."
Oh, it's great.
Is great.
Yeah. And I swear that the contact that he wears to make his eye look like a glass eye, I swear it gets bigger as the film goes on. I don't know if that's true or not, but by the end, his pupil looks so huge. And I have no idea, but
that's interesting. I'm going to need to watch it again. I've never looked at it. Like by the end, he's totally bug-eyed out.
Yeah, and maybe it's just the way they light that eye or something. I don't know, but it just always struck me because I don't notice it so much at the beginning, but by the end, it's like, hello, big glass eye here.
Are you going to talk about Wilford Brimley and Richard Farnsworth?
Yes.
All right.
So, well, okay.
You do your thing. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your notes.
No. Comparing to the mythology and stuff and everything. Glenn Close playing Iris again, who is, Iris, rainbows, kind of, the goddess of light and all that sort of thing. Kim Basinger playing Memo Paris, and that's just an interesting. I think it's just an interesting name because Memo is like a memory, and she's almost like a memory version of Barbara Hershey's character, Harriet Bird, right? The dark lady who comes in, and she's kind of like a force of nature. And interestingly, she actually brings up to Roy Hobbs when they're on the train, have you ever read Homer? She's kind of referring to these myths.
I'm interested, one of the sort of critiques of the film is that that there is not more time spent deciphering the incident. Right, that the shooting and her motivation and pulling down the veil, and that Barbara Hershey had this role to come in. We have, one bit where Joe Don Baker actually reads the newspaper and says, or it wasn't Joe Don Baker, it was actually, Max saying, reading the newspaper to the Whammer saying, there's a shooting in the Silver Bullet. Then Robert Redford gets shot, and that's it. I mean, that seems like a momentous kind of an occasion in the film, and it is essentially swept away. And one of the critiques that I have read pretty consistently is that mystery was unresolved, and that makes this less of a film as a result.
I don't think so. It is a mystery. Famously, President Reagan, actually, when he was talking to one of the screenwriters, that was his question. It's like, why does she shoot him? I didn't get it.
I wonder if this was before or after Reagan's assassination attempt.
But he had to explain, well, there's the scene on the train where they're talking about the two sports people who had been killed by, silver bullets. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that you have to be really paying attention to catch that line where they're talking about it. Otherwise, you miss it. And if you miss it, then it's like, what is going on with this woman killing him? What's going on? And it's kind of strange. It's just an interesting character. And you're right. It's one of those things that you have to kind of buy into. But if you look at it as a myth, this is really a kind of a dark figure who, if somebody is like too egotistical and is this is a hero who, pulled Excalibur out of the tree, mm-hmm. He crafted Wonder Boy out of this, shard of a tree left by this bolt of lightning that, for all intents and purposes, Zeus hurled down. Mm-hmm. And so he creates this sword, and he goes out into the world to fight and to be a great hero, but he's got a big ego. What he wants is to be the best ever and to be somebody that everybody talks about. He's not doing it for the love of the game. He's not doing it for any other reason other than his own selfish ego. And she comes along as
first the temptress.
Yeah, the temptress, and then, finding that he really is doing it for the wrong reasons, really is like and I don't know the mythic character that would be, but is essentially like the creature that comes along to destroy those who are too egotistical and pursuing things for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting character. It's like this, I guess in more, it's a noirish femme fatale sort of character almost,
Right.
So it's very interesting. If you look at it from the mythical perspective, And I think that's what I had to do. I could buy into it a lot more because I had trouble with that too.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you see the movie enough times, you just sort of, that becomes just a beat, and it washes the rest of the movie. It's the gate that allows the rest of the movie to wash over you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Wilford Brimley plays Pop Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is an interesting one that I hadn't, connected to the myths, but as I was looking around online, his connection is the Fisher King. And in the Arthurian legends, Percival is out searching for the Holy Grail, and it comes across this castle in this wasteland, and there's the Fisher King there, who's who himself is wasting away. He's withering, and he needs somebody to rescue him, and by in turn rescuing him will save his kingdom, and it will restore it to life and everything. Mm-hmm. And Pop Fisher, literally, is kind of the Fisher King character in this. He's arthritic. He can't, he is unable to play anymore. And he needs that character to come along and save him. And that's who Roy Hobbs is. And when the film starts, when Roy first arrives, the field is dead. It's kind of a brown, ugly field. Right. And when he first hits that ball, the lightning strikes and it starts raining. And the land is restored.
That's it.
So pretty interesting. Yeah.
The famine is over.
Yeah. And then, of course, through Memo Paris, he starts building his ego again. But luckily, through Iris, he is able to, find reason to do things for the right reasons again, I guess.
I love it. I love that. I think we should somehow maybe document some of these. I mean, that the Fisher King and the Wasteland, and some of the Arthurian, especially that the more obvious play that the team is actually the New York Knights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very big point there. Yeah.
The Knights and the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's. It makes for a richer read.
Yeah. And this was all in Malamud's book. He really had all this in his book. He wrote it at a time right after the war. It came out in 1952. And I think he felt, with all of these people coming back from the war, not getting work, he just felt like he needed to tell a truer story to the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it had such a downer of an ending.
And we should say specifically why it was a downer of an ending. At the end of the book, Roy Hobbs' character actually throws it. He throws the game, and they lose, as opposed to the great win in the
Does he actually
film.
throw it, or does he just miss?
Well, it's unknown, because at the end the kid comes up and says, say it ain't so, and he doesn't say anything, but he puts his head in his hands and begins to cry. And he cries and cries and cries. And that's how the book ends. So, there are, there are folks who speculate, and I obviously don't know, I don't know the extent to which this is true, but that the book was actually based on the shooting incident of the real player, the Philadelphia Phillies player Eddie Waitkus.
Eddie Waitkus, yeah.
Waitkus, and then the it was when who was it that threw the World Series?
Yeah, it was the White Sox.
It was the White Sox, right?
Yeah,
so
8 Men Out, another baseball movie that one day we should talk about.
We should definitely talk about that. But that was what inspired the natural the book, and so it was really about the dark side. This was a book that really celebrated more the dark side of the game, and this character that was coming back and rebuilding, and it was the heroic epic journey, the epic journey, and almost. Well, not even almost, an epic journey that ends in failure. Mm-hmm. It was written in a darker time.
Yeah,
that'd be a different conversation.
No, it would. It definitely was, and it's interesting because Malamud, when he saw the movie. He wrote this. He grew up in New York, and I think he was Russian, if I recall. And he grew up in New York and was fascinated by baseball. And he decided to, he wrote this book, and it wasn't until, and because he really enjoyed the Americanness of it, and he always kind of wanted to feel like he fit in and everything. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until the movie came out and he went and saw the movie, and the ending with it all being different and everything, he walked out, and I can't remember if it was his wife or his daughter, but someone asked him, he was like, well, what'd you think? And he said, now that I've seen this, I'm finally an American. I'm finally an American writer. Mm. Like, he felt like the way that they translated the book and everything brought about the Americanness of the story that he was telling. Mm-hmm. Pretty interesting.
The rest of his books are, deal with equally heavy topics, from anti-Semitism to, religious persecution. And this movie, it's interesting that this movie sort of fits that mold, and yet was so easy to turn into something that makes a grown man cry.
Well, I think it was because not only did he take some stuff from real life that people could connect to, but I think it's because he pulled all these things from myth and, mm-hmm. Infused the novel with that. So it just made it so easy to create a story about a hero's journey. Mm-hmm.
It is beautiful, and so as much as we talk about Roger Towne's contribution to the beautifully architected screenplay, he really, the bottom line is he had an incredible story to work from.
Did you mention Phil Dusenberry, because he co-wrote it?
He co-wrote the script, right? I get really excited about Towne. Town people, townies,
those town guys.
But that's a very good point. It's that the source material was incredibly rich and well structured story. It is well structured story.
Yeah.
So beautiful. What do you got?
It's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
What are we gonna do next week?
So we're going to continue our baseball series. Somehow our baseball series ended up being structured to be 80s baseball movies. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. So next week we're going to talk about Bull Durham, and then we'll follow that up with Major League and end with Field of Dreams.
Man.
So it'll be a fun series.
80s baseball movies with a bent toward a certain actor.
Your favorite. They're great movies.
Okay, you're right. So next week is Bull Durham.
Bull Durham, yep.
I can do that. I'm excited about Bull Durham.
Oh yeah, that's great stuff.
Okay, that's all I got. This was good talk.
Yes indeed. We gotta end with fireworks. We need big exploding fireworks raining sparks down on the end of this podcast. That's how we end a podcast for The Natural. Can you do that?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm going to cut in right now. Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete. And to be honest, it's a lot of work too. But it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us, even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page, where we've listed every movie that we've talked about, paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series, because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support the next reel in our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we'd put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?